welcome to the fourth edition of Open Court with MJ Akbar. Akbar Saab needs no introduction. Public intellectual, writer, Rajya Sabha MP. His last two books being Gandhi's Hinduism, The Struggle Against Jinnah's Islam, and Tinderbox, The Past and Future of Pakistan. Today we will be discussing the volatile situation along the Durand Line. Joining me is Ratna Shukla Anand. Akbar Sahab, if we could start, now it is official. The Taliban have rejected the Durand Line and say there would be no compromise. Are you surprised?
No, not at all. If the Taliban wants to get the affections of the Afghan people, then they have to recognize a basic reality that nationalism is more important to the Afghan people than any kind of an alliance with Pakistan in the name of religion. Pakistan has always made this very fundamental mistake in its strategic thinking with its old concepts of deep strategic space in its confrontation with India, and has always believed that it could create deep strategic space in Afghanistan by raising the bogey of Islam or religion, the fact that they have a common faith. But faith does not synchronize and is not synonymous with religion. It's as simple as that. And they are learning this lesson yet again from people who they considered, I think rightly so, their own products, as it were. The Taliban was created first in 1996 when Benazir Bhutto was prime minister. And at that time also the Pakistan establishment believed that by putting the Taliban in power in Kabul, they had won some kind of a major regional geopolitical battle. This time again, I think perhaps with more effort than they did in 1996. And they thought that they would probably get more quote unquote obedience. But they are not going to get obedience from the Afghans on the Durand Line because the Afghan people, and particularly the Pashtun, have always rejected the Durand Line, which is an artificial line created by Sir Henry Mortimer in the 1890s, 1893, 1894.
If you could develop this point which you're making, why are the Pashtuns and probably even the Balochs, because the Durand Line extends southward towards Balochistan as well, why are the Pashtuns especially so alienated with the Durand Line? If you could elaborate on that.
Well, the Durand Line does extend right up to in the south to Iran, and we forget that the Durand Line extends right in the north up to Pakistan occupied Kashmir and up to the point of China's illegal claims in that area. So it's really a line which straddles the whole of, it straddles China, India, Iran, in addition to Afghanistan. It's a very, very volatile line. But the reason why they have refused it is because it was a line imposed by British imperialism. And it was a line imposed, they've had three wars, the Afghans. It is not well known that they've had three wars. In the first war, which was in 1842, the British suffered a comprehensive defeat. The second war, which was 1878, 1880, it was, let's say, more of a draw. And the Afghans were forced to concede certain territories on the border, which the British defined as part of their strategic requirements in the great game against the advancing Russians of the Tsarist Empire. And this line then, after the second Afghan war, was created in negotiations in 1893, 1894. And after that, and this went through the heart of Pashtun territory. And then it extended, I think, after the third very brief war in 1919, the British again imposed a kind of ratification of it. But since 47, which is the collapse of British power in South Asia and the British retreat from South Asia, the Afghans have never, ever accepted that Durand Line is the border. There was one brief moment, to be fair, I think when Sardar Dawood visited Pakistan, that he made one statement accepting the line, but he didn't survive, and that was never acceptable to the Afghan people. Even today, the Pashtun kind of people, and their Pashtun territories, have a history at least as far back as Alexander. And they
Oh,
have,
that's far.
yeah,
That's that's quite far.
no,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's
And the Herodotus mentions what he calls the Pactians in their
जी
territory. So they were seen as a political entity of the time.
so it's pre-Islamic. The Pashtun nationalism predates
Oh, yes,
Islam,
yes. I
and
mean, all nationalisms predate religion.
right. And what you see now is reassertion of Pashtun nationalism in a big way. And Taliban really then is a cover for the Pashtun nationalism. Would you think that's a stretch, or would you agree?
Well, no, now it has become the position of all the Afghan people. It's not simply the Pashtuns. So even when the Tajiks are there, it doesn't matter. With the Hazaras, it doesn't matter who is in power. And as Pakistan is
Mm,
now realizing, uh, once they have taken away all their border fences and all their, artificial decision, they're realizing that, just putting the Taliban in power doesn't mean that, the Taliban is going to surrender the Afghan interest.
absolutely.
Uh, in fact,
जी
if the Taliban do, as I said, then they will lose credibility with the people.
Correct. Right.
They don't have too much of it now. They are in the process of trying to build some. They can't
Yeah.
afford it.
जिस तरह से जब अंग्रेजों ने ये एक फूट डालो राज करो की नीति जो अपनाते थे, क्या यहाँ पर भी पश्तूनों को उन्होंने डिवाइड करने की के पीछे ये एक मंशा थी? और दूसरी बात ये कि जो पश्तून नेशनलिज्म है, उसे इस्लामिक आइडेंटिटी के ज़रिए खत्म करने की कोशिश पाकिस्तान ने क्या तालिबान के ज़रिए की और अब जो है वो उलट पड़ गई है?
नहीं नहीं, ये देखिए, ये अब मेरा ख्याल इट वुड बी एन ओवर स्ट्रेच, ये ज़्यादा हो जाएगा। ये बात जो है, मतलब वो डिवाइड एंड रूल का मामला नहीं था, वो बड़ा स्ट्रेटेजिक मामला था उनका। अंग्रेज बोल रहे थे हमारी बाउंड्री यहाँ होगी, क्योंकि अंग्रेज की पावर थी, हुकूमत थी, तो जहाँ मर्जी अपना लाइन बना देते थे। वो हमारे यहाँ उन्होंने पार्टीशन के कई लाइन बनाए, तो इसलिए वो कहानी वहाँ नहीं थी, क्योंकि वहाँ किसको डिवाइड करेंगे। तो यहाँ पर तो सीधा एक इम्पीरियल लाइन था, तो अफगान उस इम्पीरियल लाइन को नहीं मान रहे थे, वो आज भी नहीं मानते हैं। इसीलिए आज जो इलाका उस ज़माने में, एक ज़माने में फाटा कहा जाता था, फेडरल फ्रंटियर अथॉरिटी टेरिटरीज, उसके बाद उसका एक और ये हो गया, एक्रोनिम हो गया, अब उसको पख्तूनख्वा, खैबर पख्तूनख्वा। हाँ, तो क्यों ये इमरान खान के ज़माने में उसका नाम बदला है खैबर पख्तूनख्वा। इट्स ऑल एक, ये इट्स ए sort of ornamental concession to Pashtun identity, right? कि भाई अपनी इनको इलाका दे दो, शायद वो जो नीचे एक सुलगता हुआ एक आग है वो शायद दब जाए। लेकिन ये सब चीजें जब पाकिस्तान एस्टैब्लिशमेंट करती है तो वो आग फिर भड़क जाता है।
जी, लेकिन डूरंड लाइन में जिससे 60% लगभग हिस्सा जो है वो पाकिस्तान का चला जाएगा, तो ऐसे में आपको लगता है कि पश्तून नेशनलिज्म पाकिस्तान के लिए कितना बड़ा थ्रेट है?
नहीं, देखिए, पश्तून नेशनलिज्म एक अपनी जगह, एक उसकी इतिहास है। आपको पता है हमारे आज़ादी की जो हमारी नॉन वायलेंट ये सत्याग्रह होती थी, तो एक बहुत बड़े सत्याग्रही वहाँ पश्तून के थे, खान अब्दुल गफ्फार खान, उनको फ्रंटियर गांधी कहा। तो उनको फ्रंटियर गांधी की क्या डिमांड थी? उनकी डिमांड थी कि एक हिंदुस्तान में, एक मुल्क में, एक भारत में पश्तून को ऑटोनॉमी एक जगह मिले। तो वो क्योंकि ज्योग्राफिकल रीजन से 1946 का इलेक्शन भी उनमें भी वो उनकी फतह हुई थी, लेकिन क्योंकि ज्योग्राफिकली इम्पॉसिबल था तो इसलिए वो हुआ नहीं, और वो उनको पाकिस्तान में मर्ज कर दिया गया। लेकिन ये इसकी इतिहास जो बात खान अब्दुल गफ्फार खान कहते थे, और उनकी जो पार्टी है, उनकी जो याद है, उनका जो सैक्रिफाइस है, उनकी जो कुर्बानियां हैं, वो वहाँ के इतिहास से आप इतनी जल्दी मिटा नहीं सकेंगे.
You have studied Pakistan in great depth. The book is there, the Tinderbox, the past and future of Afghanistan, of Pakistan. How do you think the Pakistan deep state is likely to react to this challenge, which might come to the territorial integrity of Pakistan?
Well, they are helpless. Frankly, the Pakistan deep state, Pakistan middle state, Pakistan shallow state, Pakistan high state, all of it becomes impotent before the Afghan assertion. What can they do? Are they going to risk a confrontation with Afghanistan? In that case, their whole strategic efforts of the last 20 years, 2 decades, and even much before that, becomes null and void. Because then you have the same situation as you had with whether Hamid Karzai or Ashraf Ghani or all Afghan leaders before that. What has changed in that case?
No, you see, if you let me step into Pakistan's shoes for a moment. Now, I have lost East Pakistan, becomes Bangladesh, and here is another possible loss of territory. If Pashtuns and the Afghans realize their dreams of a greater Afghanistan, to put it that way, in that case, as a Pakistani, I would react, and possibly the military would react to make sure that there is no further partition of the country. Would you think
Well,
that
I
kind of
don't
a
think no.
assertion? Yeah,
No,
please.
I don't think the Taliban is going to get into a military confrontation with Pakistan.
Right.
No. Nor is it going to uh, actively encourage any kind of a secessionist movement in Pashtun areas or etc. I don't. I think that would be
That would be too
exaggeration.
much. Hmm.
That would be exaggeration.
Right.
But what we can see very clearly is that Pakistan's effort very quickly to what might be called make de facto into de jure, which is make the Durand Line, which is in Pakistan's interest, because Pakistan is sitting on Afghan territory, into the established fact with a friendly government in Kabul, that has failed. That has
That is
failed immediately, without any, without any pause. It has failed.
Akbar Sahab, right now you see Pakistan in a firmament. You see in all directions, internally in the mainland. You see it in Balochistan. You see it now even in Gilgit-Baltistan. There are rumblings. So at this point in time, do you think there is a likelihood of empathy or a alliance of some kind between the Pashtuns and the Balochs to counter Pakistani assertion at this time? Do you think that kind of a bonding is possible?
I think these problems will remain in a sense independent of each other. That doesn't mean that they will go away, or that doesn't mean that they will diminish, or it doesn't mean that they will evaporate, sir. But they will remain independent of each other. What it proves in the broad and I think fundamental proof, it provides for another fact, which is that Islam as a basis for nationalism or nationhood is simply not sufficient, is in fact a basis or a doctrine which has been repeatedly proven by history to be a inadequate or even a false doctrine, right? Because all the people that we are talking about, whether they are Baloch or whether they are Pashtun or whether they are in Pakistan, they are all Muslims. They are mainly Sunni Muslims. By far, the overwhelming majority is Sunni Muslims, right? They can pray together, they can celebrate Eid together, they can fast together, but their national interest is very different from their religious interest.
Akbar
Therefore,
Sahab,
Jinnah's theory that Islam is the basis on the basis of which partition was created. That is what he persuaded the British to believe, and the British, who didn't understand the subcontinent at all, very quickly fell, or perhaps encouraged this fallacy that once again Jinnah has been proven to be utterly wrong.
तालिबान और पाकिस्तान के बीच जो रिश्तों में खटास है, अब डूरंड लाइन उसका कारण बन गई है और क्या ये बढ़ेगी?
जी नहीं, मैं समझता हूँ कि दोनों साइड समझ जाएंगे कि भाई इसको मत छेड़ो, इसको छेड़ोगे तो कहाँ से कहाँ की बात पहुँच जाएगी, हम उसका अंदाज़ा भी शायद नहीं लगा सकते हैं। तो इसलिए अगर दोनों काबुल और इस्लामाबाद में अगर थोड़ी सी भी अकल है, और थोड़ी सी अकल का तो आपको देना ही पड़ेगा कि है, तो ये इस बात को अब चुपचाप ये जो है जो मामला जैसा था वो रहने देंगे और इसको आगे नहीं बढ़ने देंगे। हाँ, अगर आगे बढ़ने दें तो मैं समझता हूँ कि इनकी फिर नाकामी होगी और इनके रिश्ते सुधर नहीं पाएंगे। लेकिन मुझे नहीं लगता है, मुझे लगता है कि ये जो है समझ गए हैं अब कि भाई इस बात को मत छेड़ो, डुरांड लाइन जो जैसा था वैसा ही रहने दो, विवाद था, विवाद को रहने दो, विवाद को इश्यू और क्राइसिस मत बनो।
How should India respond to Taliban if Taliban is the cover and there are these forces like Pashtun nationalism lying, or if it is to survive, it has to co-opt these very tendencies which are going on? How should we respond?
Why should we respond? I mean, these are realities.
Because of Afghanistan
No, I mean,
is important.
these are Afghan realities, and these are part of the internal affairs of Afghanistan and its development. So let the Afghans respond and find their own path forward. Right? This temptation to always jump into any situation is not a very what shall I say, politic or rational thing to do always. Yes, if the Afghans want help, for example, in any situation, humanitarian help, yes, as a part of South Asia, we will do it. Just now, we have sent 500,000 vials of anti-COVID vaccines. Yes, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's what we should do. And Pakistan is simply not in a position to do that. So, irrespective of who is in power in Afghanistan, our relationship of friendship, warmth, and our equation with the Afghan people, I think that it's too old and too powerful. We certainly will never ever damage that relationship.
Sure. On that note, thank you very much. And I also think that's why you were such a successful Minister of State for External Affairs from your last response. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.